Welcome aboard. If you're watching this video, let me be the first to say, congratulations! You've recently been hired by FIFA, and this is your first official day of training.
Can I play soccer now?
No. You've got a lot to learn before you're ready to play soccer. As you can see by the graph, you are now scouted into the most viewed sport of the world. Soccer didn't become Paraguay's Olympic strength overnight, because they won that silver medal 12 years ago. The story of soccer is a story written by athletes' hard work, determination, competitiveness, and bad acting. But mostly, they're bad acting.
Who said that? Is that a ghost? Okay.
From humble beginnings.
You may think that soccer has always been played with the ball, and you're right. Back in the Han Dynasty, soccer was called suchu, and it consisted of kicking a leather ball filled with feathers and hair through a small net fixed onto long bamboo canes. Everything was looking good until things took a depressing turn in 1365. King Edward III banned soccer in 1365 because of accidents and military's excessive participation in the sport. Later in 1424, King James I of Scotland would proclaim to Parliament, "Nah man, play the football."
No, man.
King James II, III, and IV all voted to prohibit soccer in 1457, 1471, and 1491. Hope was lost until international rules were established. With a couple of alterations, soccer was saved and returned to the people.
Sounds like a lot of
Hoopla!
Sounds like a lot of
Hoopla!
Sounds like a lot of
Hoopla!
Sounds like a lot of hoopla over a little sport, right? Wrong! The game of soccer today. To keep up with today's demands, viewers and fans, no expense has been spared to acquire all the latest achievements in soccer technology.
Cleats have had many developments over time. Cleats were first made by Cornelius Johnson in 1525. The first cleats were ankle-high and made with hard leather. In the late 1800s, soccer rules became established. The rules of soccer were known as the laws of the game. The laws of the game inevitably changed cleats. The laws allowed for cleats to have 6 round studs. Before the laws of the game, studs didn't have to be round, and there wasn't a limit to how many studs a player could have. After World War II, cleats became cheaper and improved. They were improved by design change and synthetic materials. Previously, cleats had been ankle-high, but in the late 1940s and 1960s, cleats became over the ankle.
These are high-quality human hydration systems. They're important. This is a high-quality inflatable sphere made for footwork. Don't touch! And most importantly, you have the state-of-the-art shin guards. Now, are you just going to stand there or buy something because there's a standing fee?
All this modernization seems a little overwhelming, doesn't it? Well, luckily for you, Mr. Krabs' fierce robot overlords keeps the balance of technology in check.
But if modernization is the heart of FIFA, then employees are the liver and the gallbladder. Let's see if you got what it takes. Poised, confident, and a smile that says, "Hello, world." Now, tell us what you know about soccer.
I know you players are required to wear shoes, socks, shin guards, shorts, and a shirt. I also know that in the cold, sweatpants, sweatshirts, and jackets are allowed to be worn as long as they're worn under the uniform. I also know that gloves, mittens, and soft hats / earmuffs are permissible under cold conditions.
You've got the makings of a good athlete, Mr. Squarepants. But for every good athlete, there is one who is not so good. Let's see, not communicating, incompetent, an irritated look in his eyes. Look carefully at that "I really wish I weren't here right now" button. There's a name for athletes like this, but we'll call him Squidward.
Can I play soccer now?
No, you can't play soccer without understanding the phrase hoop. Once you understand hoop, you'll understand your place at FIFA.
Hoop?
It's a carefully organized code. Watch closely.
Hoop.
Looks like Mr. Squarepants understands poop. Here comes a fan now. What do you think he's gonna do? If we use poop, we can figure it out. Do you think he's gonna A, watch basketball, B, watch synchronized swimming, C, watch soccer? Poop. You never let us down. Now that you understand poop, I bet you think you're ready to play soccer.
Not so fast, SpongeBob. We haven't even talked about the rules. every FIFA employee must comply with strict guidelines. Are you ready to comply? There are many laws of soccer. Law 2 regulates the ball size. They must be number 5 ball. In soccer, it is not permissible to have more than 11 players on the field of play for either team. A minimum number of players is typically 7. One player from each team must be designated as goalkeeper. The goalkeeper must wear a different color shirt from his teammates so that everyone can easily differentiate the goalie. The goalie can only use his hands inside the penalty area. Remember, SpongeBob, only the goalie can use his hands, so no hands. Although the goalie has his own jersey, the rest of the teammates do not. Law 4 of soccer ensures that all players, excluding the goalie, must wear the same colored shirt or jersey.
Are there any physical requirements?
Soccer players come in all sizes. There aren't many physical requirements that need to be met, but most players have a lean body composition, are above average height, and are rarely above 200 pounds.
Are those all the rules?
No! There are 17 basic laws of soccer.
These 17 basic laws of soccer include the required field of play, number of players, players' equipment, rules for fouls and misconduct, qualifications for the referee and assistant referees, rules of the offside, duration of the game, regulations for the goal kick, penalty kick, free kicks, corner kick, throw-in, as well as circumstances in which the ball is in and out of play. Then it also elaborates on requirements for the ball, method of scoring, and the start and restart of play.
Now that you know the rules of soccer, you probably think you're ready to play soccer, right?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Nutrition and training. It's important to eat right and to exercise. Soccer players' diets should consist of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vegetables. 2/3 of a soccer player's diet should be whole grains, and the other 1/3 should consist of protein-rich foods, vegetables, fruits, meats, and dairy. Soccer players must remember to consume proteins and carbohydrates.
Why are carbohydrates and proteins important?
Well, proteins are important because they help rebuild and rejuvenate muscles that may have been damaged during practice. Carbohydrates are important because they provide energy for our muscles to contract.
What foods contain carbohydrates and proteins?
Carbohydrates can be found in pasta, bread, and cereals. Protein can be found in fish, beans, nuts, and lentils.
Well, does that mean I can drink my orange juice?
No.
Oh, okay.
We're kidding. Orange juice is actually extremely beneficial for soccer players. Orange juice and vegetables with vitamin C help absorb iron. When you have low iron levels, you have a better chance of getting anemia. Anemia is fairly common in female soccer players. You can keep your iron levels stable by eating red meats. You shouldn't just drink orange juice though. You need to drink at least 3 liters of non-caloric beverages. You must stay hydrated. Dehydration will hinder your performance.
I probably shouldn't eat fast food anymore.
Indulging in fast food isn't the wisest thing to do now that you're a soccer player. Cooking your food at home is better than fast food because it encourages healthy eating and more nutritious choices. I suggest you cook with olive oil and canola oil because they support heart health and help in maintaining wholesome cholesterol levels.
Can I play soccer now?
Of course.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Now that you know about your diet regimen, you need to learn about your training regimen. What do you think a soccer player must do to train for matches and, eventually, the World Cup?
They need to run fast.
Yes, they do need to run fast, SpongeBob. Soccer players have been known to travel up to 8 miles during a 90-minute game. Running for prolonged times is a huge demand on cardiovascular systems and requires muscle endurance. You can improve on your muscle endurance and cardiovascular system by jogging, running, and sprinting. You must also remember to incorporate interval training into your program that involves high and low intensities of activity. That will provide better results than long duration and low intensity jogging alone. To improve your speed and explosiveness, you should include power movements in your program such as jump squats, high pulls, power cleans, and push presses. Because it is important to have speed endurance, I recommend incorporating these exercises into your training with high intensity intervals.
So I should bulk up and go.
No, you need to focus on relative strength. Relative strength is far more important in soccer than absolute strength. Relative strength is simply your absolute strength in relation to your body weight. Your strength training program should focus on compound functional exercises and take into account balancing the strength of your muscle groups such as quadriceps and hamstrings. Trainers suggest doing lunges, squats, push-ups, dips, and step-ups to improve your relative strength. Also, remember to not waste your time training solely on machines and avoid useless, non-functional exercises such as leg extensions. The majority of your exercises should include using body weight or free weights as resistance and should involve movement of your full body. And now that you know your training and diet regimen, you probably think you're ready to play soccer. Oh, calm down. There will be plenty of time. We need to make sure you're ready for the hazardous aspect of the sport. Common injuries.
Mr. Krabs, can you fix my leg?
Well, you developed Achilles tendonitis from an overuse and increased stress on your heel. And because you didn't stretch before practicing, you also got a sprained ankle. I'm sure your foot and ankle is feeling very tender and slightly swollen, so you must simply rest for a few days. Keep off that foot and take a couple of painkillers.
Oh. Can I play soccer now?
Now we will go from behind the scenes where we'll examine the most crucial part of the sport, the player.
Whoa! What was that? Was that a ghost?
Much like the circulatory system, each player moves faster and exerts more effort as the pace of the match grows more frantic. As each player runs after the ball, the heart labors to pump blood and oxygen to the quadriceps and hamstrings, which means having a healthy heart is essential for any star player.
Squidward! I think it's raining men! I heard a man in the sky!
Are you actually gonna play, or are you just gonna stand around performing breathing exercises?
Well, you're both technically already performing breathing exercises. As your leg muscles work harder to kick the ball, your cells perform cellular respiration more rapidly, which is an aerobic process. This means your muscle cells need more oxygen to produce ATP. The respiratory system responds to this high demand of oxygen by causing the body to breathe harder and more often in order to bring more oxygen into the lungs. And then, the carbon dioxide from our muscle cells is disposed when we exhale, which
also comes... Huh? What?
You were talking about the respiratory system and the leg muscles requiring more oxygen. You are right about your quadriceps and your hamstrings needing more oxygen to allow you to jog, maintain a sprint, and change directions quickly. But you also can't forget the muscles in your arm and core. Having strong biceps and triceps allow you to throw the ball in farther and block a shot as a goalie, as your core muscles aid in maintaining balance and overall stamina.
Oh, Squidward, you know you can't throw boring information at the audience like that.
The clouds are right, Squidward. You are a boring athlete.
Fine. And how would you explain the skeletal system and how it provides structural support with every movement? Or how the hinge joint allows you to actually kick the ball? Or how the gliding joint in your ankle prevents your foot from pointing the other way? And how about the ball and socket joints in your shoulder and hips, which rotate with every step and swing of your arms? How would you explain that?
Well, first I would,
We'll check up on these two later. Right now, it's important that we discuss a physics situation. Like all fields of science, physics plays a key role in the sport of soccer, so it's up to you to be the calculator of... What's this? It's the opposing team's goalie, Plankton!
Eat my microscopic dust crabs!
He's blocking the goal! What will you do, Mr. Squarepants?
Given the initial velocity of the ball when kicked as 25 meters per second, and the angle of the ball when kicked as 45 degrees, and the distance from the goal as 30 meters, you can infer that the initial horizontal velocity as velocity of the ball when kicked times the cosine of the angle of the ball. Simplifying the substituting in variables, you could get h equals 25 meters per second times cosine of 45 degrees. Solving for the cosine of 45 degrees, you get h equaling 25 meters per second times the root 2 divided by 2. Solving it out, you get h equaling 17.677 meters per second. Solving it out, you get h equaling 17.677 meters per second. It is implied that the horizontal acceleration is equal to 0 meters per second squared because of a constant horizontal velocity without air resistance. To solve for time, you can take the distance to the goal, d, equaling h, the initial horizontal velocity, times time plus 1/2 of the horizontal acceleration times time squared. Substituting in variables, you get 30 meters equaling 17.677 meters per second times time plus 1/2 of 0 meters per second squared times time squared. Simplifying it further, you get 30 meters equaling 17.677 meters per second times time. Dividing both sides by 17.677, you get time until the ball reaches the goal as 1.697 seconds.
And so, another goal scored thanks to Mr. Squarepants.
Can I play soccer now?
Depends. How much do you remember?
Soccer is a very old sport. It can be traced back to the Han Dynasty. It has also been tampered with over the years. Over the course of time, it has seen an array of rules and design variations. These rules are also quite basic and simple to understand. You can't use your hands, attack opposing members, have more than 11 players on the field at the same time, etc. There is also multiple types of kicks, such as penalty kicks, goal kicks, and corner kicks. I also know that soccer players must maintain a healthy and consistent diet and training regimen. A soccer player must take care of their body. Soccer is a huge demand on the body. Since they're constantly running, they must maintain a healthy and strong respiratory system. Soccer also is heavily reliant on the cellular respiration.
That's very good, SpongeBob. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. The world of FIFA awaits. You've worked tirelessly, and that means...
Can I play soccer now?